Nigerians are experiencing the worst food inflation in decades amid a weakening naira, insufficient domestic agricultural production, and over-reliance on expensive imported food. Data from the National Bureau of Statistics show that the annual food inflation rate was 35.41% as of January and 11.9% higher than January 2023 last year. At the state level, the food inflation rate has been higher in states like Kogi, Kwara, and Rivers at 40%, while the lowest annual rate of food inflation have been recorded in some states like Bauchi, Adamawa, and Kano at 30, 29, and 28%. It is clear that the food inflation is a countrywide phenomenon. The rising inflation and the slow growth have caused a number of impoverished Nigerians to rise from 89.8 million at the beginning of last year to 104 million, according to the World Bank's most recent Nigeria's Development Update report. The fight to track and crush the food inflation is a fight for all. The government has been ups and doing in their programs in remedying to the situation and solving the food inflation in the country. Welcome to Big Talk, the program where we examine the state of the country and the phase and the development so far. There have been an increased agitation for this, and that's the reason we're having this conversation tonight. I'm being joined by Lady Gracetiti Fredson, is the president of Nigerian Women in Agricultural Business Cooperative Society Limited. Tonight, thanks so much for joining us, Lady Chief. It's a pleasure to have you tonight on the program.
Thank you, Michael.
Yes, a concern because we saw last month people were protesting, we are hungry, we are hungry. So it's a major concern in seeing how we can begin to put food on the tables of Nigerians. And food, never before has been so expensive recently. We've seen people go to the market to buy pepper. They are feeling the heat of it. From all your indication, what are the root causes for all of these problems we are confronted today in the country?
Oh, thank you, Michael, for this question. So we have a variety of issues that led to what we're experiencing now, which is commonly known amongst everyone. One of the key issues we see is that our smallholder farmers, who make up 80% of the food basket, can no longer sustain us with subsistence farming. So there's a need for the country to introduce mechanized farming. So there's been poor adoption of mechanized farming for various reasons, such as farmers cannot afford this mechanized production, processing, and packaging of our agricultural commodities. And of course, why is that so? It's because there's the cumbersome process of them accessing funds, credit facilities from the bank. They don't have the requisite documentation to enable them access these funds. And apart from that limited access to credit, we talk about the rising price of inputs and implements that are required for those smallholder farmers to access, to enable them increase their production to meet the country's demand. And of course, like I said, a variety of issues even relating to adoption of biotechnology and adoption of new technology, adoption of irrigated system. We found out that the climate change actually had an impact. I don't know if some of us in Abuja, even with our AC, from the AC car to the AC house, experience the moment you cross, you're not in an AC environment, the heat, the drought we felt. So the way we felt it is the same way the crops also felt it. So they had impact. And of course, with that climate change came disease. And these crops are not used to this sudden drought. So that increased the disease, even if they've been, they're hybrid seeds that have been made to be disease resistant. So all of this with inavailability of access, good roads, electricity. Well, like I said, if we keep mentioning them, there are so many.
They're cumbersome.
Yes, they're cumbersome. And all of this led to what we're seeing, and of course, top on the key is security. I'm talking about insecurity in the northeast and in the southeast. So each of these variety, each of these problems that might look small or large, all contributed to what is plaguing the country at the moment when it comes to food insecurity.
So it now looks at the fact that there are more approach to solving this situation, and because we've identified some of these issues, many Nigerians were aware of the problems that are ravaging. But what steps do you feel can be taken to get food on the table? Because I mean, while growing up, we had subsistence farming. People were able to put crops behind their houses, the front of their houses, at the very close by farms, just to be able to create. What is deterring? I mean, what are the push-out factor for some of these practices that probably were what was sustainable as at the time before we now expanded it?
Okay, so why subsistence farming was able to sustain us or our forefathers, because not us, why they were able to sustain our forefathers, like I mentioned, there are a number of things. We talk about climate change. We didn't have the issue of climate. We didn't have fossil fuel causing issue to the ozone layer. We just had what we use, the firewood. Wherever you have fossil fuel activity, you know very well it will cause black soot. So while you're complaining of black soot entering into your nose, you should also know it's also causing layers on the plants. And we didn't have that causing all of this drought, this climate change then. So, and then we were not large in population. We did not even have our rapid environmental degradation that we're having right now at that time. We didn't know anything like inorganic fertilization. We didn't even know anything as per genetically modified modification of our seeds, but though we did grafting, the normal grafting, but not the lab type of changing the genetics of the seed, even if it was for positive use. So that's why I said all of this contributed. And I do remember 40 years ago, we had a little bit of good roads. We didn't have those big trucks moving and depleting our roads. We didn't have insecurity. So when we want to compare us now and 40, 70 years back, when agriculture was the core activity that brought forth, that contributed to our GDP, we should also know 70 years ago we didn't have fossil. We didn't have fossil activity. And diversion to fossil activity is also one major cause that made us to decline in our production, or our focus to focus on mechanization in agriculture. So those this listing that I just provided are the things that contributed to what we are facing now. And there were not 212 million at that time having our land giving us 100 yield, compared to now that if a farmer do not use an organic fertilizer, he will not be able to have good yield. So you see, all of this contributed to what we're facing now. Thank you.
All right. In a bit of getting some of these things solved, that those are probably without that there should be an urgent steps, because we are hungry. It's a language on the lips of many Nigerians, which we subscribe to. But what we are seeing so much of concerning to us is the fact that at the market where we go to buy some of these products, where we go to buy some of the market product, there are always inconsistency about prices. Sometimes we find increases today, and the next time we go to the market to buy the same product, there are also changes of the prices. Is there no way we can actually get prices of food to be balanced at the same time when we are trying to crash these? Okay,
first of all, you need to learn that there's a law that controls the inflation. So when demand is higher than supply.
Are we having more demand now?
We're having less supply. So that also means demand is higher than supply. It's not because we have much more demand than...
How about people that say that they have food, but it's costly for people to buy?
The same economic principle applies. As far as the supply is limited, and then the demand is, even if it's static, and the supply goes far below 80%, it's going to cause an increase in price because you have to sell to the highest bidder. And also, don't forget that we have other variables that impact this, such as the farmers not being able to afford these inputs that we talked about. And even when they sell as a high price, they also have to contend with high transportation. So everything is interrelated. It's locked in the matrix. The farmer, you might think he's benefiting because he's selling very high today, but he spends that money in his transportation. He spends also that money in high cost of living. We talk about accommodation or even schooling of his children, because everything is increased. So, but what we should be looking at is, what do we do? What's the way forward? What quick fix can we do? What are other countries doing? What industry, what sector in Nigeria is so successful that we could adopt from them and apply the principle they apply in agriculture, even if they're a different sector, so that we can achieve sustainable food security. I think that is a focus that we should be looking at. And in looking at that direction, I need to say this to the public, that we need to treat agric as a business. For decades, we've treated agric as an intervention and as an aid. And so we've cried out to the government to come to our aid. And it might be harsh, but that has to stop. Because if I say it in pidgin English, dash need they make person rich.
So the handout is not sustainable.
Yes, no, the handout will never be sustainable. The Chinese man rightly quoted it that don't give me fish, but teach me how to fish, and so that I can be sustained and take care of myself. So we need to now focus on what do we do. We know all the challenges. I'm sure I did mention up to half of them. So the next thing is, what do we do now? What can we do to go out of this within the next 6 to 12 months? That should be the focus now for everyone.
Because at always the first point of the call, the ball will always get to start, the concentration will always go to the government. Sometimes people will tell you, government have to provide seedlings, government have to do this. And we've seen the president over time, distributing seedlings to state government and all of that. So effort of either government, either the state, local, at the local government level is necessary to support this, because the farmers will not combat insecurity that we're having at the farm. Farmers will not control cost of fuel that is causing the cost of transportation, and that is the reason why it's affecting the prices we are having in the market. So there are limited concern on how farmers can begin to confront this, and that's the reason why people will tell you a government should. What is your assessment about the effort of government? Do you feel that people are undermining that?
I think the government is doing so much, and no matter the interventions, like I said, the dash the government gave, it will never solve the problem at all. Because you give them fish, you always have to give them fish. So it's time the government move away from intervention and start working with the farmers in a public-private collaboration relationship. That's what I would like to talk about. That's the solution, I think, where all the
they should get some hands involved.
No, let me just give a little bit. I'm the president of Nigerian Women in Agricultural Business Cooperative Society. And our business model, it's the same business model that the oil and gas used that made them to be sustainable. You see, Shell has been there, the Total has been there, the Chevron has been there, the Mobil has been there. And my person being a first degree holder in economics and extension, and over 22 years in oil and gas, still as an agropreneur, and being involved in some of the major projects in Nigeria that provide a minimum of 200,000 barrels per day. I've come to find that the system, the model, their business model they put in place is what the countries like Switzerland and Sweden are using in agriculture. And I think that is a direction that the federal government and our farmers should do, where the government and the private sector, which is the farmer, come together to form a company and a mechanized farm cottage that has both production, processing, and packaging, and where these farmers are being trained to work in this mechanized system, just like it is in the oil and gas. Just a bit of recap. In the oil and gas, before, why the engineering design and the constructions are all going, they send the recruits, they send them for various training in the various fields they should be trained. And just when they want to commission that facility, they bring in these recruits to be part of the commissioning, and then they operate and maintain the facility themselves. And that's why they've been very successful. So I propose a system based on our business model. NiWAB is already doing it. We've acquired land. We have set out the number of our affiliates
at that level.
Yes, at our level. Yes.
All right. Let's get to look at issues of distribution. That those I will tell you. I mean, if government are probably, or some persons are not involved in the production, probably they might not be able to control how the supply and all of that. Do you feel that there is a need to also breach into that gap, because concentration have deviated from the agricultural sector? We are still relying on oil, and we are bothered because the oil, as it is right now, cannot put food on the table of Nigerians. We are having these cases of hunger affecting, food distribution. What can you say about that?
First of all, the oil and gas is also receiving the heat because their caterers cannot even find food. They can't find the commodity to service the oil fields, from what I can know reliably. And if time is not taken, they'll start shutting down oil wells. And that's where we're getting our money from. So yes, the government has tried to do a lot in diversifying into agric. And some of the governments are doing it, especially state government. I'm aware the governor in Niger State, I commend his effort. He has put up a state company, which is what I'm talking about, that is entering into collaborations with farmers, even giving land for farmers to farm and they offtake from them. You see, that's another type of collaboration, which is workable for Niger. They give you one up to 100 or 1,000 hectares. And also the government of Akwa Ibom State, I'm also aware, is also doing very well. Thank you so much, SARS, for this initiative both of you are doing. He's going right into agriculture himself to start producing so that he can have off-takers, which is the public, and at a very good and cheap, this affordable price. So what we are looking at is, as this government in all the administration are looking at what is workable, because problems are localized, okay? What is workable for them, we encourage more of the state governors, the federal government to enter into this public-private collaboration with the farmers. So you're not giving them inputs or intervention or carrying out the anchor borrowing system, which failed drastically after the billions of naira CBN put in the last time. This time, you are putting up the facility for them to work, and they work in there, you share the profits with them. That's the kind of partnership. So that ensures that the food is made available, because the farmer cannot afford to get tractors, but the government can afford to invest in mechanized system, like getting the tractors and the processing system. So that's processing machinery. So those are the diversion we are seeing. Yes, very few governors are doing it. At least I can list two that I know you can go.
And there's a need for a state to be able to keep behind all of that.
All states, we commend all the other state governors to do the same to fight that. And I'm sure as more state governors adopt this public-private relationship that of Niger and Akwa Ibom are having, with time we're going to see abundance of food, and then we can start pushing out this food to the international market to generate for us.
Government announced selling rice, 50 kg bag of rice at 40,000. Is that sustainable? And in terms of distribution, far-reaching to the yearnings of Nigerians who are hungry?
Okay, so those are one of the initiatives. That's why I commended the federal government, because at the market, that same rice is sold for 80,000. And those were government projects, what they produced. They didn't buy those rice.
The one that are selling at 40,000?
Yes, they were produced through some other process, some other relationship, public-private relationship, but in a small scale. Yeah, the distribution, probably people will frown at it. It's not sustainable, but for now, at least it's helping a bit. I would say it's helping a bit because it's just a bag of rice, and someone can go twice. Like I said, that if you keep giving the guy a bag of rice, he'll keep coming every month for it. So, but I encourage every governor to follow what these other two governors have mentioned are doing to have a sustainable system.
All right.
Thank you.
Should the creation of livestock probably be standing on our own, because we've seen a move by the federal government to create a separate ministry away from the Ministry of Agriculture? Do you feel that there's a need to unbundle more on that ministry, or probably adding more responsibility for them to tackle some of these issues?
Okay, so we have different type of organizational structure. We have the matrix structure, we have the team structure, we have some combination, we have the hierarchical structure. The federal government, in its wisdom, has found that it's better to unbundle this, especially to tackle the issues we're having with the cattle rearers, venturing into the farms of our smallholder farmers. And if doing this unbundling is going to address that problem, because this cattle rearers are one of the issues we have, because the cattle have to look for where to eat. Most of us eat meat. They have to look for where to get grasses to eat, and in not finding the grasses, they have to go into some other person's farm. So the government is trying. I'm not here to advocate for the government, but I think it's they're making
is it a welcome development?
Yes, they're making an effort to see how they can tackle that issue. And it's important when something new is introduced, you give it time to see how it works before you criticize it, or before the public criticizes. Let's see how it can work. Thank you.
All right, let's go on a very quick break, and right away, once we return from the break, we'll complete a conversation regarding making food sufficient in the country, and looking at ways on how this can fast-track Nigeria's economy, in boasting that the hunger protest of last month, we are not praying for that protest, and there's a need for every stakeholder to rise to the occasions of the situation on ground. To stay with us on the program.
For an insightful idea that takes the center stage and the conversation that gets beyond the headlines, to explore the lasting impact of political decisions, Big Talk got you covered. From policy debates to geopolitical insights, from thought-provoking discussions to actionable insight.
What is the real responsibility of government?
Big Talk delves deep into the heart of the matter. Join us weekdays on global televisions from 6:30 p.m. for a reverting journey into the heart of politics, where we dissect issues shaping our society. For an insightful idea that takes...
Many thanks for sister with us. I still have the president of NiWAB. Thanks so much for being part of the program. In looking at driving on urgent actions and more steps in driving this? Because most of the times we have conversation about, food sufficiency and fighting the food inflation. There are more steps. If the path of what we probably must know what to do, individuals' engagement, corporate world's engagement, there is a need, to have an urgent steps, actions to move, because we can't look at the statistics where we are right now in terms of food inflation and fold our hands to sleep.
Yeah. So there are urgent solution, like I told you. I'll give a key practical solution that within 3 weeks, we have abundance of fish. Okay, so you know very well we have coastal regions where as the Niger Delta, apart from Abia and Ondo State, where we have good coastal nautical mice. Acquiring fishing trawlers that can go certain nautical miles, they go for 10 days, precisely 10 days, and they come back with millions of fishes. You can't compare fishing trawlers to aquaculture, and they are very cheap. A fairly used fishing trawler is $200,000. Very cheap. In 2 weeks, if you send two, $400,000. In 2 weeks, they come back, stay 5 days, they go back again. What you will produce, if you do at aquaculture for that value, you will take you 1 year to get what you will get in 1 month. That's in 2 trips that these 2 trawlers go. So that can, to an extent, curb when it comes to nutrition. We're not just talking about food security, we're also talking about nutrition security when it comes to the protein intake. Then you talk about goats. Livestock, let's talk about livestock. I'm happy about the livestock department, ministry, federal ministry, because they'll take care of that. Livestock like goats and sheep take 6 months to reproduce, and they normally reproduce with 2 kids at a time, okay, at a season. So if we are able to, if the government works this same, private-public collabo that I'm going to be preaching, to set up a goatry, you can have 3 times of that goatry within 6 months, just within 6 months. So if we have those, as I said, public, private, mechanized farm cottages at the various states, looking at the priority crops where they have priority crops and priority livestock, where they have comparative advantage, I'm sure within 6 months, the government should be able to solve this food insecurity. Within 6 months. I'm an agripreneur. My first degree is economics extension.
So you have a wider, not just about the certificate, because
I grew up in a farm. I still.
But you don't look like one.
I didn't grow up in a poor home. We grew up having gardens. We grew up having chickens. I'm talking about in abundance. I don't think we were really buying goats and all of that, because everything was just there. It's just some few things. We couldn't keep vegetable because our goats will eat our vegetable, or our chicken will eat our tomatoes. So except those few things we're buying. Even now, as an adult, just less than 1 year ago, I have 2 tanks of fish tanks, catfish, and I'm taking from my 2 tanks to feed the family. I didn't buy fish for years from the market. So these are the things I was doing for myself. But like I say, subsistence farming cannot
it's not really sustainable.
It's not sustainable at all. Yeah. So I don't have to, I call myself, me and my women, that's the NiWAB, we call ourselves slave farmers. So the young girls can come, look like us, as beautiful, like clean as us.
Do you feel it's not attractive? Do you feel farming probably is not attractive, and that's why some young persons really feel it's not a proud career to choose, because there's a decline from that. We rarely see people that probably want to farm in terms of upon graduation they are taking this. Very few statistics of people who are passionate about it. Do you feel that there's a way we could probably make this colorful?
Yes, we can, and that's why in our organization we have the youth wing, headed by a medical student that has a large farm of maize. So, and we've seen that a lot of those of us looking this attractive and still having our farm. Just for your information, I have 16 hectares of maize that is fully ripe. This weekend I'll go look at to see whether we're ready to harvest. And when they see women like us doing what we're doing, they begin to get attracted. But nevertheless, there's a need for the government in the institution to start imbibing on this one's interest to have in them interest to go into agriculture. Like you say, there's been a decline. Yes, there's actually been a decline. But by the time we have this public, private, mechanized sector, I'm sure that the younger ones, as they finish university, will be applying to work in our company. So we won't have this story you're talking about anymore.
Is our state of infrastructure also posing a threat to us in terms of driving out the situation?
We don't even have any infrastructure. Can you say we have silos? Not really. We don't have the good road at the moment. They're depleted over time. So we can't say we have infrastructure to say what the state is. So
are we managing the ones we have, like the roads?
There has to be funds to put these roads in place, and not just to put them in place, but having, nation building, I need to say this because most people like to blame the government. Nation building is a collective action. So the government makes the fund available. The contractor has to be sincere to use the good material. To
government and sometimes with the statistics of the investment in agriculture, sometimes they make the fund available, but there is a missing line to how all of this is being implemented, and that's the problem. Sometimes we don't really have an issue about probably the intentions of government or neither the effort of government, but there is always a missing line about all of these things being implemented. So you feel it's a problem.
So that tells you that we are our problem. So we all collectively are the problem. And we all collective at the solution.
Should we not then go hold government responsible because they're the one that are what's contract?
Hold responsible if it's given to a civilian that is a contractor, and who the community prefers for him to share the money rather than use it on the road, or who maybe the government agency, everyone take a bit of it and there's nothing left for the contractor to do his work, and so he takes the little one and never does the work. So I said it is nation building, is everyone is involved. The government is us, everyone, including the children.
Because we see some people in Abuja, in the Federal Capital Territory here, claiming farmers and all of that. At the end of the day, they get some contracts awarded, but they do not put anything on the table. We've not found some of these, some of the implementation of what effort government are making.
Well, I don't know about political farmers. I think that's the name you call, because the women, our affiliates, our head count members in our affiliates, are all farmers. So
some of the men are political farmers?
I don't know, but I can't say.
You can't really talk more on that. All right, in a way, because all of these interactions is necessary because we must have a pathway, and the discussion starts now because we must start discussing how we can get some of these things done. Because just as you mentioned earlier, we have all of these enormous issues, and we're trying to see how we can translate all the data we may quote. All of this grammar and all of this quotation we are making today will not make sense if at the end of the day, it doesn't get to materialize in food, is now becoming, sufficient in the country and back to Nigerians. There's a core, as I probably could hear from what you said, private, public partnership must be involved. In a more practical means, we've seen local government that have been granted autonomy now, and some people will tell you, development begins from the grassroots. There's a need to begin the development from the grassroots. What is your assessment about that? Is it that there have been a total abandonment of that particular arm of government? Okay,
first of all, we thank, I appreciate the Supreme Court for giving
financial autonomy.
Financial autonomy to the local government, because development starts at the local government. That's what you call grassroots. And then when I'm talking about government here, I'm talking about government at every level. So the local government should start its own private-public partnership. Now, just to buttress the importance of this, and this time I'm talking to everyone in government, this public-private mechanized farm cottages we're talking about addresses security. You can't hear that someone went into any of the oil companies to kidnap the workers working there because they fortify themselves. Individual farmers cannot provide their security. But when we have this mechanized system in place that system can provide security. Just like the oil and gas, they provide buses for these workers to come to work and go back. So we expect that these farm cottages will have buses for the workers, which in this case are the farmers. When I mean farmers, I'm talking about those in production, processing, and packaging, and even in the sales aspect. The system is also to provide HMO, that's health scheme, for the workers. The system is to provide pension. Farmers never know what health scheme or pension is. Believe you me, this system will provide training. So the farmers are always improved in their knowledge, even if they've been doing this thing as far I know it from when I was born. But now they know it on the why. So when all of these things are being put in place, you find out that these farmers will work their life out. That's why you see people work in the oil company for 30 years. They give themselves to the company for 30 years. And when they retire, they even are brought back as consultants. They don't want to go back because they enjoyed giving their life to it. They see themselves as part of that company. I strongly feel that this business model, taken at every level, local government, state government, at the federal level, this public-private collaboration on the various farm cottages is the sure solution to sustainable food security, sustainable food and nutrition security in Nigeria and even in Africa at large.
Do you subscribe to food importation? Because we've also seen that where we've seen probably we can no longer feed ourselves. Sometimes some individuals resort to other countries to import some of the food into the country. But those are also argue with you that is a way of also, not encouraging, production in the country. What's the assessment about that, food import?
Before I talk about that, I need us to address agricultural business. Whether the government supports the farmer or not, the farmers can come together to collaborate. The government can come. I did partnership with someone on a 16 hectare. The government didn't come to stop us, and we're going to harvest. So we need to see agriculture as a business and stop looking for who to blame. We should look within us. The issue has been we've been looking out rather than within. We have the knowledge, we have the skill, we are resilient, we are pushy. Nigerians are pushy. Even if a Nigerian loses somebody now, they'll be laughing the next minute while their heart's bleeding. We have so much knowledge in us, but we've been so focused on the government and have left the solution, which is us. So let's look at farmers coming together. Just to say this, right now, NiWAB has opened this affiliation program, asking every woman who is a farmer that is in a primary cooperative society to affiliate. Why? Because we want to bring these farmers together. That's where security is. If you have 1,000 women in a location farming, which herdsman wants to come and attack them? It's because they go there as lone soldiers, as lone farmers, Rambo farmers. And that's why they get all this attack. There's such a thing in the international world or the workplace, they call it teamwork. When you work in teams, you go far. When you work in silo, you might go quicker, but you probably might not go far when you need someone to encourage you. So I want us to look at it from that angle. And I think we should get away from, when NiWAB's core objective says we are here to complement the efforts of the federal government. That is, we're here to help the federal government. And I think it's time everybody starts speaking that language.
If your government cannot do it alone?
No government can ever do anything in any country alone without its people's support.
But the environment, the conducive environment must be granted by government.
We can build that environment.
You can build the environment.
I tell you the truth. We are already doing it in NiWAB. And we're growing
the taxes will
be
be fine. So some of the taxation policies at the back and forth is also probably may also be discouraging some persons to participate in all of that.
Let's look at, taxes. We're talking about taxes right now that they are high because of the other numerous issues. If those issues are not there, believe you me, our taxes are the lowest. In France, I know when I buy something in Europe, they take 33-point-something% from me. And nobody is complaining. Yes, you say the government there made an enabling environment. That's why our own taxes are lower. I'm sure when the environment is enabled, our taxes will go higher than 7.5%.
Do you feel the tax we have is appropriate for us now?
I think the tax we have, remember, it's a balance. It is because we don't have, in quotes, that enabling environment, although we have the enabling wisdom to get the enabling environment. So the taxes are they count at the value or the figures they have right now. But if we could focus on us working together to get our environment enabled, maybe the government can catch up with us.
All right, everyone, that's of course where we begin to wrap it up on that convention. An urgent call and concern for all Nigerians to see how they can begin to put hands on deck to also drive some of these. The statistics of food inflation in the country is quite scary, and there's a need for us to begin to take urgent steps. The government at the level, the local government, the state and the federal government must begin to track that. Thanks so much, Lady Gracetiti Fredson, the President of Nigerian Women in Agricultural Business Cooperative Limited. Thanks so much for joining us on the program tonight.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, we'll go on a break, and once we return from that break, I'll finalize the discussion tonight on the show. Please stay with us.
Center stage and the conversation that gets beyond the headlines to explore the lasting impact of political decisions. Big Talk got you covered. From policy debates to geopolitical insights, from thought-provoking discussions to actionable insight.
What is the real responsibility of government?
Big Talk delves deep into the heart of the matter. Join us weekdays on global televisions from 6:30 p.m. for a reverting journey into the heart of politics, where we dissect issues shaping our society.
Many thanks for still stay with us, and of course the task ahead of us to drive some of these issues is quite enormous, but we must begin the steps, and the roles and the responsibility of all of us is that the food inflation in the country is becoming, a wider phenomenon, and we must begin to see how we can begin to tackle that in crushing to get more sufficiency of food in the country. We cannot exhaust that conviction and the concern, but we must always begin with just a step, because we can't just only build the country of a dream, and no one will do that for us. Thanks so much for tuning in and stay with us on Big Talk tonight. I'll see you again. My name is Edikan Michael. May Nigeria succeed.